So this video kind of showed up in my recommended, and I kind of want to talk about it. It's by a YouTuber named Pada. This guy has almost 30,000 subscribers. Seems like this guy is also an Asmongold fan. So that's interesting. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an Asmongold fan. However, the thing is that this video is actually quite well done. It's well edited. There's evidence that he's shown. And not only that, he makes compelling arguments. Now, with that being said, even though I believe that he comes from a place of good faith, I disagree with the video. And as we go with this video, as we move along with this video, I'm going to kind of explain why I disagree and provide some commentary on this particularly well-edited video, okay? So, yeah, let's just get into it.
I find it quite strange how a lot of people on the internet just jump to conclusions without any hint of evidence. It's sad to see how critical thinking seems almost endangered among the chronically online. A lot of people just follow trends of hatred without actually taking the time to find evidence to back up their accusations. Just because a lot of people are saying something doesn't make it true. We've seen this happen with a lot of public figures, especially in recent years. A good example would be J.K. Rowling. This decline in critical thinking is one of the many reasons I believe a lot of people dislike Asmongold.
Now, it's kind of interesting how Pada phrases this as a decline in critical thinking. Have we had a lot of critical thinking in the first place? That's a question that I kind of want to tackle here, right? I mean, it seems like in the past, it's kind of implied that there is a lot of critical thinking. I'm not sure if there is. There's always been herd mentality. There's always been a lot of people grouped up together, right? I think that maybe if you were to point to more evidence, for example, the rise of cable news, right? When cable news became more and more popular, eventually the Senate and the House of Representatives began to have less and less overlapping issues where both sides will agree on, right? There is a graph somewhere out there. Probably too lazy to find it right now, but however, yeah, it seems like there are certain points in time where maybe critical thinking is less encouraged, more encouraged, or whatever. It comes and goes in waves, right? But yeah, the decline of critical thinking, again, I kind of have a feel that Pada is coming from a side where he is speaking from a more conservative position. This is just a guess. Okay, I could be completely wrong. But even then, you know, this can be applied to both sides of the aisle, right?
Is the fake laugh he does, and I don't respect him at all. I don't know, maybe his audience is like 12-year-old boys. Maybe they really buy this and think it's funny.
He's racist.
Yeah, I don't know who the hell these goofballs are. I actually don't know a single one of them except for Vosh. And if I know Vosh is himself pretty bad faith at times. And yeah, like there's going to be a lot of people who are jumping onto the hate wagon because it's trendy or whatever, right? However, I will say that compared to some other content creators around Asmongold's size, they don't get they get way more hate than Asmongold. If we were to compare Asmongold with some other people, like we're talking about Pokimane, right? We're talking about Hassan, right? Hassan is a very popular dunking target, right? But yeah, I don't know who these goofballs are, but maybe they're making bad points. I don't know, right? So we'll see.
First off, by what I've seen, a lot of the hate against Asmongold seems to have stemmed from other YouTubers' disdain for React content. In my research, I stumbled across a video titled "Asmongold is Bad, Why I Don't Like Asmongold Videos."
Now, when it comes to reaction videos, I don't think it's that much of a big deal. I think that if you're sitting there, you're not really reacting or anything like that. Like, obviously, you should be held to account, right? Like, you can't just sit there, have your face be on the top. Like you're not giving any insight, but you're still playing the content on your screen to your audience. And then you post a video and that video gets like more views and more engagement than the original video, right? That sucks. Obviously, if you're going to do something like that, it's best to pause and react, right? And then you want to credit the person below. But otherwise, I don't really have that much of an issue with React content because obviously I'm also reacting to this video, right? So, you know, I'm not one to say about this either, but at the same time, I have I have a mixed view on this in particular, right? Because there are people who grift off of React content, and yeah. So we're just gonna skip over this React portion because majority of the time and almost the entire time I pretty much agree with Pada, so it doesn't really matter, right? I want to get to the parts where I actually disagree with him.
Consistency, it seems like, from a lot of his advice and a lot of the stuff that he talks about. It seems Asmongold views values as baseless, and he doesn't hold religion or morality with much regard. He might sometimes communicate the usefulness in the individual and society and benefiting society and all that stuff, but it seems like most of his arguments seem to flip-flop because he is literally living in a tiny little echo chamber of basically a Redditor, addicted gamer who somehow got famous.
There's almost no evidence in his video that he has actually ever watched an Asmongold video, because he even states that Asmongold preaches his lifestyle to his massive audience, which clearly couldn't be further from the truth.
The problem with that is if he doesn't have any educational insights, if he doesn't do any self-development of himself, but he's preaching educational ideas to the masses, this is very destructive and it reinforces, nihilistic tendencies to his audience.
Now, here's the thing. This whole nihilism point is also moot, right? Both the reaction point and the nihilism point seems kind of silly to me. If like a lot of normies in real life, a lot of people who live in the real world, whatever, like they're not going to be thinking about schools of thought. They're not going to be thinking about morality a lot of the time. They're not going to be going like, oh yeah, you know what? I identify as a rural utilitarian, right? They're not going to say, oh yeah, I really respect Nietzsche's, Nietzsche's, okay, you get what I mean, all right? But they're not going to say like, oh, I totally follow this philosopher, I totally follow what they're saying, what they preach, whatever, right? Like, that's not going to happen. And the thing is that like nihilism tends to be a very common thing that people say when they don't really like study on this kind of stuff, because when people actually study and research and see what they believe, most of the vast majority of the time, it's never nihilism. They never, say, yeah, you know what? I've done all my research. I am a nihilist. They will either say they're a utilitarian, a mix of utilitarian virtue ethics, all that sort, right? Kantianism, doesn't matter, right? Now with nihilism, this is kind of off topic at this point, but just to real quick say it, nihilism is like nothing ever matters and nothing ever will. So, just be merry. We get to die tomorrow, whatever, right? Like that's like, oh, you can kill whoever you want, you can do whatever you want because, you are bereft of morality, you're bereft of responsibility, which I don't think Asmongold actually believes. So, yeah, these points are kind of moot, to be honest. Yeah.
Artists' opinions don't matter because what matters is the opinion of the people that are buying the product.
It's genuinely sad that people seem unable to disagree in a healthy, constructive way. Asmongold doesn't shy away from controversial takes, and some people don't like this. I've gone around many Twitch and YouTube channels throughout the last year, and I find it fascinating how most channels are easily seen as mini echo chambers. I don't think many help dispute these claims, but I can also see how those who don't actually watch Asmongold can point fingers at his channel and say the same thing. But I've actually never seen a content creator who sides against his entire audience live as much as Asmongold does. He clearly doesn't pander to his audience. The man has even riled me up at times with some of his takes.
Like the fact that Halo Infinite didn't launch with an official Battle Royale mode is unforgivable.
Yeah, so I would like to comment on this on why I kind of disagree. The thing is that like if you look earlier into the segment, well, first of all right, this entire thing with the creator openly disagreeing with his audience and then facing backlash over it isn't just Asmongold. And we're talking about large creators, right? So Destiny is another person who is the same, right? He tends to disagree with his audience a lot, even though it is still an echo chamber. There has been many times where, for example, when he purged all the socialists from his chat, Destiny has done that, and he has faced a lot of backlash for it, right? Now, the main point that I want to disagree on is specifically like, okay, so we're saying that, okay, Asmongold is harsh because he says something like, oh, the artist's opinions do not matter, right? The problem that I have with Asmongold is that a lot of the time he tries to guess what masses of people are thinking. He tries to guess what groups of people are thinking. Instead of kind of making his own opinion, right? Like, for example, when he says that, oh, artists' opinions do not matter, does he believe artists' opinions should matter? Should that matter from his perspective? That part I remember, but it's not really clear to me. Maybe somebody can clear it up for me, right? I don't know if he himself cares, right? He doesn't talk about what people are supposed to do or what he himself should think about an issue. It's always, oh, this group of people is always going to think this way. This group of people is always going to think that way, right? The thing is that while it's true, it is ultimately a fact. It's more of a fact that you're stating rather than an action being prescribed accordingly due to a fact being true, right? And so ultimately, that's one of Asmongold's biggest problems, and that's what makes his recent turn to politics pretty bad as well, right? Because he's always going to say like, oh, lots of people are going to think that trans people are too extreme or whatever, right? He's trying to play PR critic, right, for other people. He's trying to critique other people's PR, how they present themselves, whatever, right? But regardless, it's just, it seems kind of, forgive me for saying this, cowardly, right? It seems cowardly because he could be saying far more. He could be saying, like for example, if in the past, all the celebrities were saying, yeah, you know what, workers should not unionize because the only thing people care about is the product that these companies will make, right? Oh, people want coal for their fireplaces, right? People want firewood for their fireplaces, right? Nobody cares about what the workers think. Nobody cares about, what they want, right? You got to do your job. If people went into situations with Asmongold's mentality by saying, yeah, you know what, this is what this group of people think. This is why your opinion doesn't matter because you're simply outnumbered, right? This is what society wants. We would just never really get anything done, right? Because otherwise, why is activism important in the first place? Why do we push to have a higher minimum wage? Because I know that Asmongold doesn't worry about a minimum wage now, right? Why do we push for a higher minimum wage? Why do we push for better health care, right? And ironically enough, it kind of sucks because these are all things that Asmongold himself doesn't have to worry about, but other people do. But people are going to be thinking about these things. Some people are going to be outnumbered. And I think that minority of a group of people still matters in terms of deliberating what to do when it comes to a specific action, right? So ultimately, on this point, yeah, I do disagree with Pada, yeah.
Like a game that comes out and it has, this is feudal Japan and like the main character is a black guy and a girl. I immediately there's like no escapism that this can provide because the entire story is built on the foundation of trying to appeal to a quote modern audience.
And even in this clip, Asmongold makes a valid point. If a game is set in historical feudal Japan, it shouldn't call itself historical while altering history just so the developers can push a political agenda. This guy literally spent the rest of the whole video ranting about Asmongold's living choices.
Again, I have a problem with the whole Yasuke historically accurate game kind of stuff, right? First of all, who cares? It's an Assassin's Creed game, right? It doesn't really matter all that much. And honestly, when I look into the whole Japanese reaction to this kind of thing, how the Japanese government reacted to it, they really do not care about Assassin's Creed, okay? And furthermore, Assassin's Creed has always had a history of so-called historical inaccuracies, right? In Assassin's Creed 3, we have a half Native American freaking going around killing redcoats, right? Like, how historically accurate is that, right? Or if we're talking about Karl Marx, which is also in Assassin's Creed games, there seems to be an entire quest line associated with Karl Marx, right? The father of communism. So, you can argue that these are political agendas, right? Karl Marx is almost all political. Like having a half Native American, whatever, back in the day in 2014, 2012, right, it could also arguably be kind of political, right? So I just don't get why now suddenly, all of a sudden, when it comes to Yasuke, now people have a problem with it. Like, what is it specifically about Yasuke's features that make him stand out so much, right? Well, I'll let that one, I'll let you guys brew on that one, okay?
First off, Asmongold messed up. He said something that was blatantly prejudiced against an entire culture. There is a level of truth from the perspective of extremist religions, but Asmongold didn't say this. Instead, he broad brushstroked his point and called out an entire culture. He messed up, but you know who also believes he really messed up here? Asmongold.
So a couple of days ago, I made some comments about Palestine, some just general, basically opinions that were trivializing the genocide that's happening there. I said something about it that was disgusting. I said that I didn't care about innocent people getting killed by another force, by anything. And I think that that's a horrible, disgusting, mean-spirited thing to say.
During the 2-week Twitch suspension Asmongold faced, I couldn't help but find either one of these two extreme views on the situation all over X. On one side, people were defending Asmongold and saying he was stating facts. And on the other side, we had people calling him racist, fascist, and words I don't even want to repeat here. But one thing that can't be disputed here is the fact that Asmongold actually messed up. He made an awful judgment on what he said, and he faced the consequences. Now, this is where I personally garnered enormous respect for him. Asmongold took responsibility for his actions.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the whole Palestinian deserve to be, take the Asmongold had, because he says that they're like disgusting people, whatever, right? I don't have that much of a huge issue considering how he came forward with it or whatever. But the thing is that when it comes to Asmongold speaking actively on bigoted opinions or something like that, there isn't that much to find. Like, for example, you won't find Asmongold saying something along the lines of, oh, I dislike trans people. I don't like trans people. I don't like they, thems. I don't, whatever, right? I don't like Asian people, whatever. You're not going to find statements like that, but you're only going to find him innocent if you don't believe in endorsing via silence, right? For example, he plays endless clips and videos of Trump. He smiles, he laughs, right? Makes faces at Trump and Elon Musk, different scenes and whatnot with that. Now, when Elon Musk and Trump say some bigoted things or some outright lies or some kind of racism, bigotry, Asmongold doesn't actually bother to counter them. And this is the trend for a lot of Asmongold's videos. Everybody knows this. And that is where the problem actually lies, for me, at the very least. Because the thing is that, like, for example, if I was a big streamer and I went on to stream and I put some kind of propaganda, like Nazi propaganda or something onto the screen, or I put some kind of really extremist stuff onto the screen, I should be receiving criticism if I'm not pushing back, right? Because otherwise I am broadcasting that to my audience, and through silence, through me just smiling, laughing, whatever, right? Or me just saying, oh, that's funny as hell, right? Obviously, you would ultimately still be kind of endorsing it to your audience. You would come out of an Asmongold video kind of going like, yeah, you know what? It's kind of cool, okay, all right, yeah, I support the people on the screen as well, right? And yeah, that's one of the biggest issues with Asmongold is his entire like style of commentary when it comes to, he talks way more when it comes to subjects that he could actually understand, like for example, street fights or World of Warcraft, right? But this is again part of the problem, right? Yeah, again, he doesn't outright say these things, but now it just feels like he's found a smarter way to say these things without actually saying these things, right? So that's where the problem comes from.
Asmongold has this beautiful ability at times to approach controversial subjects in good faith. It's something I've noticed about him over the years, and it's definitely a quality I hope he never loses. He doesn't always do this, but when he does, I find myself personally challenged. This has naturally encouraged his audience, including me, to have a slightly broader perspective when looking into controversial topics where people usually have an established bias.
I mean, like, Asmongold plays devil's advocate on a good number of subjects, a good number of dramas, whatever, right? But part of the problem with Asmongold is that he plays devil's advocate when it's convenient, right? Like, for example, you're not going to find Asmongold playing devil's advocate when it comes to politics. In fact, when he watches political content, he's not really doing that much commentary, but when he does, he's not really playing devil's advocate against himself, especially when it comes to different kinds of subjects like USAID or whatever. He doesn't really go, yeah, you know what, these could be actually good uses of USAID. Instead, he will tend to always go against. He's very politically divided, I think, on that front. And yeah, this really seeps into his commentary as well. And again, while it is true that Asmongold will play devil's advocate on certain topics, he doesn't play devil's advocate on every topic. Why I hone in on Asmongold so much is because by not really providing that much perspective on both sides or anything like that when it comes to politics, you are kind of making harmful political commentary, especially to such a large audience. You know, with that being said, again, like, his audience is bigger than Hassan, so he has more influence, he has more reach, right? And his videos go viral. So, you know, all of these factors are a cause for concern at the end of the day, right?
Didn't hire a maid for a multi-million-dollar mansion. He stayed humble for real. 100p on a stack.
It is far too easy to demonize someone by taking what they say out of context or pushing your own bias using their own videos against them.
Oh my god. I feel like the glaze is off the charts. I mean, like, if you glaze somebody, that's fine. I'm okay with that, but the thing is that, oh my god, this video has so much glaze. Holy crap. This video has so much glaze. I'm scared of even glazing this much to streamers and content creators that I like. Obviously, I understand where Pata is coming from, but the thing is like, oh man, you can tell that he's a really hardcore Asmongold fan. Jesus Christ.
Interesting is that a lot of these people don't seem to engage with his actual points or arguments. They just see that he challenges certain progressive ideas and instantly label him as problematic or toxic. It's more about defending their own worldview than actually considering what he is saying.
I will say this is the case. A lot of people do see Asmongold and they're like, oh my gosh, dead rat. Oh my gosh, cockroach, whatever, right? I think it's fine to poke jabs and to make these kinds of attacks. I think that's okay. But the thing is that the core of your argument has to be rooted in logic and facts, right? It has to be rooted in engaging with the argument. Now, the thing is that I wish that Asmongold himself would actually do debates a lot more often, would actually confront people a lot more often, because that's the most real way that you can actually engage with any kind of idea. That's the most real way that you can actually go on and make sure that you're actually saying the right things. Now, the thing is that, you know, again, people tend to just take shots because you're on the other side of the aisle. But I am specifically criticizing the way that Asmongold does commentary. If anybody also does commentary like that for liberals or for the left wing, I would probably also they say the same. Again, I am left wing, so I am biased here. But at the same time, you know, if Asmongold is just simply smiling, going yeah while watching Biden, not really adding anything, then yeah, that would also suck. Though I would not have that much of a problem with it all that much because I'm like a Biden supporter. But at the same time, it's like, man, you know, like I don't know what kind of commentary you're trying to give here, right? I get the ideological differences part, but again, it's just, it kind of ignores the way that Asmongold goes about doing these kinds of commentaries, right?
I personally try not to hate anyone myself, but that's because I build my life on my Christian beliefs and worldview, and I also want to honor God with my life. But one thing I don't believe anyone should ever do is spread unnecessary hate towards anyone, especially if it has no substance. I am an advocate of holding individuals or corporations accountable for their actions or behaviors, if there is genuine warranted evidence to do so.
Again, it's a very well edited video, but even then I can tell that this person is like a massive Asmongold glazer. Either, I don't think he's bad faith, so he probably genuinely misses how Asmongold does things that is flawed. I totally see his perspective, In fact, I totally understand his perspective. I don't really see Asmongold as a bad person. However, he is somebody who I would consider that I hate, because it's not the kind of hatred that completely consumes you and then you just can't stop thinking about them and then they're like living rent free in your head, right? It's more the kind of hate where it's like, I see a lot of people not really criticizing Asmongold like well, I think. Like, it's easy to criticize Asmongold, it's easy to dunk on him, but the thing is that a lot of people just don't do it well. I try to strive for doing it well. I try to show evidence. I try to make reasonings that actually make sense, right? And, if I'm a professional Asmongold hater, then, professionals have standards, right? Professionals have standards. And, at least I can kind of say that part, right? But regardless, this was a good video. But the thing is that, I disagree quite a bit with some of the points, and I agree with some other points. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. Otherwise, this is, more of a chill reaction watch or whatever. But yeah, damn. There you go. Cool.